안녕하세요. 호반아트리움 시치올드르 개인전 황홀의 틈 Gleam of Silent Ecstasy 서 감사합니다. 저는 이번 작가와에 대한 진행을 맡은 호반문화재단 박윤재 큐레이터입니다. 알레산드로 시치올드르 작가님을 소개하겠습니다. 작가님 자기 소개와 작업 세계에 대해서 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
Okay, so thank you for coming here today. And my name is Alessandro Sicioldr, and this is my first time in Korea ever, and the first solo exhibition here. But I have many people that are many collectors and supporters from Korea. So this is not a new place for me. My paintings were here long before me. So I've always been, since when I remember, an imaginative kid and then an imaginative person, and now I'm a professional painter since 10 years. So I work with my imagination. I grew up in an environment that fostered my imagination because my father is a painter. And he taught me to all the basics of classical figurative painting. So I was born that way, and I continued to do that. Even if I did different studies, I studied computer science. Then I dropped the university after the degree and started to paint because that was my passion. So I hope that you will like the exhibition.
네, 감사합니다. 이번 전시 제목 고요한 빛 황홀의 틈 Gleam of a Silent Ecstasy의 의미가 궁금해지는데요. 다소 시적인 제목인데 어떤 의미가 담겨 있는지 이야기해 주실 수 있을까요?
Yeah, it's always hard to associate words with paintings because ideally paintings should work by themselves. So when giving title to paintings or to exhibition, it's always a kind of poetic work because I need to wear the clothes of a poet. So I spend a lot of time trying to understand what's the common theme, the common thread that binds together all the works of an exhibition. And in this case, I think that my paintings are, in a way, sometimes they are large paintings with many figures and heavy objects, but they are created by looking at the background of the mind. So usually I don't receive those images as a overwhelming vision. They are like silent ecstasies, and that's why I choose that title, because silent ecstasy for me is about a little idea that appears in the mind, and usually we all have those kind of ideas, but we let them go because we don't want to. We don't care about those things because we think about the mundane. We think about like everyday life. But if you give attention to those ecstasies, life acquire a kind of poetic depth, and that's, I think, how imagination works. And I think that today we need to find our way back to imagination and imaginative life.
네, 전시 제목에 대한 설명 감사합니다. 네, 작가님의 또 작품을 여기 바라보고 있으면 황홀하다라는 표현이 정말로 잘 어울리는데요. 마치 꿈이나 내면 깊은 곳에서부터 우러나오는 느낌을 받았습니다. 작품을 보면은 늘 꿈이나 명상 그리고 환상이라는 키워드가 있는데요. 이런 부분이 실제 작업에서 어떤 식으로 표현되는지 궁금합니다. 그리고 또 작품을 이어나가기 위해 특별히 유지하고 계신 뭐 루틴이나 중요하게 생각하는 심리 상태가 있을까요?
So that's quite an interesting topic because I was actually really influenced by a philosopher, which is a Korean philosopher, but it's one of the prominent philosophers right now in Europe. He's living in Germany, even if he's Korean. And he introduced this concept of inaction or non-action, which is so interesting for me, in his book Vita Contemplativa, which is the contemplative life. And from him, I learned that what we need most in our life today is to just stand still without doing anything and just maybe trying to get bored, because we don't get bored anymore because we have smartphones and stimuli and many different kind of distractions. So I think that I want to be part of a tradition of painters that have worked with imagination, like the great masters like William Blake or Hieronymus Bosch or like Fuseli, and many painters that put imagination at the center. In order to reach imagination, we need to be still, because if we flood ourselves with stimuli, I think we lose contact with our inner world, and that's dangerous. So my practice is trying to do nothing as much as possible, and there is where I found my inspiration. So that's it.
네, 그리고 이제 다음 질문으로 넘어가 보도록 하겠습니다. 꿈과 환상 혹은 무의식의 내면이 작업의 원천이라고 또 방금 말씀을 해주셨는데, 혹시 그런 내면의 이미지는 어떤 식으로 발현이 되고 어떤 식으로 기록을 하게 되는지 궁금합니다.
So it's a hard question actually, but I tried to find a way to explain that, because I think when we dream at night, we have access to a sort of automatic kind of imagery. And if we think about our dream in our daily life, we find no meaning in that. But the emotional charge of dreams is so intense, and we don't know why. For example, water. It's a ever-present element in both in my paintings, but also in dreams. Even in movies, water is a symbol, but we don't know why it is so important and so emotionally charged as a symbol. And like fire is another symbol, So I think that when we dream, we are just letting our mind wander by itself. And when we do that, our mind produces some symbols. And some of those symbols are emotionally charged, like they are energetic symbols. So this is why we are so struck when we encounter them. So what I try to do with paint is to replicate the dynamic of dream making, but with other means, that just using a paintbrush, using drawing. And I try to transmit that kind of vision to other people. So it's like, as Federico Fellini, the director, said, artists in general are dreaming for the populations, like it's public dreaming. So I think we have many ways of accessing that realm. It's not only by sleeping. So I think that's the way I try to reconnect with this kind of imagery. And all the I don't choose them like rationally and deliberately. They just emerge. So this is why sometimes they are repeated many times. I tend to just accept them without questioning. So they just evolve on their own, and I just accept and paint.
작품 속에 보면 인물의 표정이나 눈빛이 또 최소화되어 있는데요. 의도하신 바가 있을까요? 혹시 감정의 배제나 내면의 집중을 뜻하는 것일까요?
A restriction of emotions. But it's, I think, a kind of different kind of emotion. I think that the main poetic themes of the last few centuries is the loss of sacred, because even if there still are some religious people around, even religion is still a thing in the world today, we have lost the daily relationship with the sacred. That's what I think. And for me, that I grew up surrounded by Italian art from the 15th and 16th century, the spiritual emotion par excellence is that of Piero della Francesca, Masaccio, Giotto, and those painters that they apparently look detached, but is like a language for interacting with the sacred. So even if my paintings are not religious, openly religious, I think they try to connect with that dimension. It's more to try to convey the emotion of the sacred. And the sacred for me is still, it's elegant, it's surrounded by silence, and that's why they have that kind of appearance. And I try to reconnect to the spirit of those composition, and that's why I'm so interested in that, actually.
네, 그럼 이제 작업 방법이 굉장히 궁금해지는데요. 고전적인 기법을 현대적 감각으로 재해석하는 방식이 굉장히 인상적으로 보여집니다. 주로 사용하시는 기법이나 스타일이 있다면 말씀해 주시겠어요? 그리고 또 따로 아까 뭐 말씀하셨지만 영향받은 작가라던가 뭐 좋아하는 작가분 있으면은 조금 더 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Of course, I have many of them. We can stay here all day. Because I really love art. So yes, my process is, of course, inspired by classical art. But for me, it's not about just trying to replicate what they did. It's just that I think personally that I like the sense of beauty, the sense of stillness and power that classical art gives me. And painting is partly a science, partly a craftsmanship, partly it's art, so in poetry, because a painting is a physical object, first of all, and that's important because nowadays, in the age of AI, where we are flooded by like slap and things like, a lot of images, and we see any kind of images, we cannot rely, as painters, we cannot rely on the image anymore. We need to focus on the object again. And what people did, even in Korea, in China, in Japan, in India, in Persia, in Italy, they all have a long tradition of painters that pass down generations and generations, a legacy of techniques, know-how, and sensibilities, and composition and elegance. I think about Byzantine paintings, for example. There are so many different old techniques. And if we for me, if we want to create something really new and really meaningful, we need to reconnect with the past without being too submissive to it. We need to take those elements and incorporate them into our modern world, and then try to communicate something in our personal way. So for me, it's a database from which I extract things and from which I learn, because there are great masters out there that they were so great, and they are selected in centuries. So we have the best things ever. And now with the internet, we have access to those works and we can look at them every day. So this is why I'm so focused on techniques. I want to build that bridge again without being submitted to the past. It's not just me. Of course, there are many painters like that today. They are trying to rebuild a new bridge with the past, because that's, for us, is meaningful.
네. 그럼 이제 작업을 보면은 린넨의 유화 작업을 굉장히 많이 하셨는데요. 특별히 다른 뭐 캔버스 아닌 린넨을 선택하신 이유가 무엇일까요?
Yeah, I think there's a cool story about linen, actually, because for centuries in Europe, maybe millennia, like from the Greeks, paintings were on wood, and they were on the walls. So they were like fresco and wood and those kind of. But when the new world was discovered after the 15th century, the world was starting to be globalized, and so in Venice there were many ships that were bringing around paintings, and those ships were using sails to go as a propulsion method, and those sails were made of linen, because linen is a strong and durable material. So painters that wanted to share their paintings with the world, they started to use linen, which was used before, but was not so widespread back in the day. They did like some techniques with tempera, but it wasn't great. So both the invention of oil paint and the availability of this great sails, they started to paint on linen to make those paintings go around the world. And it's paradoxical because right now we are like 9,000 kilometers away from my home, and still we are rolling up the paintings to transport them. So it's about sharing images with the world. So that's the story of linen. But plus, of course, it's a really strong and durable material, and it's of course one of the best support for oil paint. But I liked to share this kind of story because for me it's interesting at least.
네, 완성도가 굉장히 높은 작업을 보여주는 작가님이신데요. 아까 자기소개할 때도 잠깐 언급하셨지만 사실 정규 미술 교육을 받아본 적이 한 번도 없다고 하십니다. 아버지한테 또 미술을 배웠다고 하셨는데 어떻게 보면 첫 스승이자 영원한 스승이 아버지라고 볼 수 있습니다. 아버지로부터의 미술 교육이 어떻게 배우게 됐는지, 어떤 과정을 통해서 배웠는지 혹시 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
Of course, I grew up in an environment that was really all about art because there were paintings everywhere, like prints, images, paintings by my father. It was not only that. It was not only about contemplating pre-existing images. It was also about modifying them. For example, he called me like, what should I do here? Is this color right? Since I was a kid, we were all like collaboratively doing paintings. So it's like I was born in a place where paint making was a thing, was just normal for us to think about that. Some people are like that in music, for example, when they have like musicians as parents. So I had this incredible luck to be born in a place like that. So it was not just that he never gave me like lessons, formal lessons. It was more about that. It was more about the environment where creativity was like a regular everyday life. So and not only about just making pretty pictures. It was about creating powerful symbols, images, and we were looking for something. We are always looking for something, and we don't know what that is. But there is a quality in artworks that we pursue desperately. So when we look for example, when I finish a painting, there is a collective action of painters and friends that are trying to detect what is the power about that painting. So we are always commenting, maybe that's not right, we should change that. And there's all this process of creating. And then it comes, that mysterious thing that happens. Maybe the figure need to be another color, it should be larger, it should be changed. So I think that kind of environment is the best for me. And from what I know, many art academies do not teach like how to draw, how to paint all the time. Many art academies are more about people together in a room, a large room, all painters. They're working together, they're cooperating. And that's how they grew up, how they, as artists. It's not about receiving formal education, because that's sometimes pointless. It's just learning techniques. Maybe that can be useful sometimes. But what really matters is people being together and trying to search for something. And that's the core of it for me.
네, 감사합니다. 작가님은 회화를 저항의 행위라고 표현한 적이 있는데요. 오늘날 사회에서 회화 작업이 사람들에게 어떻게 인식되었으면 하나요?
Okay, yes. I think painting is an act of resistance. And in so many different ways. First of all, because it's timeless. And sometimes I'm moved by, when I look at old paintings for like 500, 600 years ago, and I see like the little drops of preparation on the side of the wooden board, which is the same thing that happens to me because we share the same recipe. So I think we connect each other, like all painters, the bad, the good, the great masters. We all reconnect each other in this long tradition, in this long line. Everybody looking for that something that I told before. So act of resistance, because today we live in a kind of capitalistic society where there is always the new iPhone, the new Samsung, the new car, and we expect artists to be like that, to have like a new body of work every year with new things and like the updated version of the past year artwork. But that's not how it is. It's about a long and sorrowful and painful search for meaning, and it takes years sometimes, and the galleries are like, oh, give me works. I want new stuff. I want things to be updated. But it's different from that, because the pursuit for beauty is a slow one, and it takes time. It's not rational. Sometimes you have to take a good painting, take it down and do it again because you need to change something. So it's the opposite of our world right now. So an act of resistance, because I feel like a little speck among thousands or millions of painters during the history, that everybody, the good and the bad, they all share this kind of approach. So we enter a timeless zone when we paint, and so that thing is make you go out from our like mundane world and brings us into that timeless dimension where everybody is, the good painters and the bad painter, the master and the amateur. Even when you paint on Sunday, you're entering that space, because there you are creating an image, you are projecting your interiority onto a surface. And that's, for me, it's beautiful.
네, 감사합니다. 네. 이것도 좀 비슷한 질문일 수 있는데요. 사실 예술이 어쩌면 많은 사람들에게 아직도 다가가기 어려운 영역일 수 있습니다. 작가님이 생각하기에 예술이 사람들에게 어떤 방식으로 다가가야 된다고 생각하십니까?
Okay. This question is two-folded, because at times my paintings, and in general many kind of paintings, are requiring something from the viewer. They're not spoon-fed. They're not easy, in a sense that they need the viewer to be participating, and that's crucial, because sometimes we just want, like nowadays many movies are like that. You have the solution of the movie, it's really easy to understand, but that's unrespectful for the viewer, because the viewer in that regards is like treated like a child, and even child shouldn't be treated like child, actually, children. So I require some attention, which is the currency. Today's currency is attention, actually, and we see in today's world how attention is important. But at the same time, they are also easy because they are figurative, and this is why I'm a strong proponent of figurative art, because I think all the great works of humanity in general, all of them, since the snobbery of the 20th century came into play, were made for the general public, and they had multiple layers of interpretation. So I think about the Divine Comedy, because I'm Italian, of course, and we play the Divine Comedy at like elementary school plays, and at the same time there is the scholar with 50 years of experience that is still trying to figure out why did it choose that kind, why is there that symbol, and many artists are taking inspiration from that. So this multi-layered art is what I like the most, and what I want to make. So I like that everybody is called to interpret those symbols, because every layer of society dreams about water, dreams about fishes, forests, mountains. Everybody has those dreams, but it's hard for them. I require to pay attention to those dreams And that's the hard part. But everybody can do that. Anybody. It's not about being cold. Many people, when they look at my artworks, they say, I don't understand anything about art, but I like those things. But I don't know if I can say something about that. Nobody think to say that about music, for example. In music, everybody listens to music. You're not, no, I'm not a scholar of music of 20 years. Of course you're not. Like, everybody listens to music. So I think art should make the same, try to attempt to get there to where it's easy to read, but it requires a lot of attention and time, and it requires some imagination. Like books are, you read some signs on a piece of paper and you build worlds inside your head. That requires a lot from the reader, and I think that's amazing.
다양한 문화권들의 사람들이 작가님의 작품을 어떻게 해석할지에 대해서 생각해 보신 적이 있으실까요? 특히 이번 전시가 한국에서 첫 개인전인데 한국 관람객들의 반응 중 기대되거나 궁금한 부분들도 있다면 어떤 부분이실까요?
So first of all, I think that we are all humans in the first place. So that's our cultural background, actually. As humans, we may have different things superficially, but deep down, I believe, at least that what we all, we are similar deep down. But yeah, with Korean public, I was shown an incredible attention and respect. So I'm here to to discover why is that the case. And with my gallery, Primo Marella gallery, we went to Kiev to the art fair, and the stand was all classical, surrealistic, figurative painters from Italy. One from Singapore, but he actually lives in Italy, so it's really influenced by European painting. So it was like trying to propose something different, and compared to the rest of the fair, like both Kiev and Frieze, it was something different. So I think it may be useful to add that layer. It's not about substituting things or telling this is the right one. It's just plurality. So I'm really curious to see this, because it's a place that I'm not so, I don't know much about. And I want to explore, I want to see. And until now, I saw a great response, and people are used to read symbols and to read inside themselves. And for me, it's incredible because we live so far away. But I think, as I said before, I think we are human in the first place. So that's why I'm confident that it will be easy to communicate. So thank you.
네, 그러면 지금부터 자리에 계신 분들께 질문을 받아보도록 하겠는데요. 작가님께 궁금한 점이 있으신 분은 네, 손들어서 말씀해 주시겠습니다.
안녕하세요. 먼저 이런 자리 만드셔서 너무 감사합니다. 이제 작가님 작품을 이제 페이스북이나 인스타그램으로 10년 전부터 보고 있었는데요. 이렇게 한국에 와주신 걸 너무 감사드리고요. 제가 궁금한 점은 이제 개인적으로 작가님 작품을 좋아하는 이유가 인물들이 각자의 이야기가 다 있을 것 같은데 말을 안 해줄 것 같아요. 그러면서 이제 말을 해줄 것 같은 인물을 찾는 재미가 있다고 생각을 하거든요. 근데 보시면은 실제로 이제 그림 보고도 굉장히 놀랐지만 사이즈가 굉장히 큰데 보면서 작가님 손목이 괜찮으실까? 이제 손목이나 체력 관리 어떻게 하시는지 너무 궁금하고요. 또 이제 캔버스 사이즈가 크다 보니까 창작자들은 보통 빈 캔버스를 보면은 중압감을 많이 느낀다고들 하는데 그것을 혹시 중압감이 있으시다면 어떻게 이겨내시는지 이제 그 부분이 궁금합니다.
So thank you in advance for your compliments and stuff. Yeah, my figure are actually they are communicating even with the viewer. They do communicate. So it's not a world closed in itself, but for example, with the gaze that comes outward from the painting, they try to call the viewer in. So it's not a secluded and closed world where they live, they do their actions. No, they call you and they want to be part of that. And yes, they they seems to have a secret, but that's a whole different topic. And about the sides, actually, you should be more worried about me about the smaller ones, because I have really bad neck pain to be to paint like this and smaller, and even for the for my eyesight, because sometimes it's really hard to do small details, while with larger paintings it's easier for me. So thank you for the concern about that.
Hi. The first time I saw your paintings, it really caught my eye because I grew up with two artists that evoke this type of imagery, like Leonora Carrington and Remedios Varo, which are very close to my heart. So I immediately was like very drawn to the worlds you create. I was wondering, and I think you talked a little bit about it previously, but what's your relationship to your artwork once you're done with it, and once it's the painting is finished, everybody has commented on it, it's hanging in beautiful gallery. Like, how is that relationship you have with the artwork changing a bit, or how it evolves, or you just forget about them and continue to the next thing? That was my question.
So I really love Remedios Varo. Actually, she's one of my favorites, and Leonora Carrington, Remedios Varo, and Leonor Fini. They're the trio of, and my niece is called Leonor as a second name. So I have like the triad of painters that about the relationship with the completed work is a complicated one, because first of all, there's the varnish process that is traumatic for me, because I always have to wait a long time, but galleries are asking for the painting. So it's always like this time I came here 1 week before because I had to varnish painting. So it's like traumatic in a sense. And I always find new things to do. So it's like they tear them away from me. This is how it's traumatic. So I really love to start, but to finish I don't like that. They're never finished. So after a while, I just stop to look at them, then look at them back like years later, and I understand what's inside. Because when you work on a painting for many months, you just don't see anything. It's just you're so used to that image that you don't see anything. So yeah, it's quite traumatic. That's the single word that's synthesized that. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
추가 질문 있으실까요?
이번 전시에 많은 작품이 왔는데 특히나 애착 가는 작품이 있으신지 궁금합니다.
No, they're like kids. You don't have a favorite one. It's just you like them all. Yeah, no. I don't have a favorite one actually. It's not about being. It's different moments. They are born in different situations, and everyone is. If I have a work that I like less, it's cancelled. I cancel it. So. Yeah, there are actually many works. I did a lot of work for this exhibition. It was crazy, but many works were like I started them before. So the date that I put on the painting is the date of finishing, but it's not the date of starting. So many paintings are done in different moments. Sometimes I leave them back. Sometimes I leave them for many months or years. This work here, for example, I took 4 years to make it, because I stopped, then I take it back, then I stopped, and maybe if you just cram the time, the painting time will be like a couple of months, but it was diluted in 4 years. So that's how usually I work.
추가 질문 있으세요? 네.
네. 앞으로의 그 작품 활동에 있어서 그 지난 며칠간의 한국에서의 경험이 뭐 어떤 작품 활동의 그 아이디어나 영감을 혹시 준 게 있는지 궁금합니다.
That will be a long one, a big influence, because I realized so many things, and it's not easy to put it in words. But I think that everything that passes through us, and maybe I will put like the traditional Korean hat. It will be just, I don't think. But yeah, I think every kind of experience go through us, and it came out in a way or other. I think I'm going to be dreaming about Korea in a year, because right now it's too fresh. There are too many many different experiences and things. And right now I will just forget everything. And in 1 year I will start to dream about Korea. So things are going to be infused in my work. But it's hard to tell that right now, because it's all subconscious stuff. So I don't know about that. But yes, it was a strong one. And I learned to give a face to all the people that are contacting me on Instagram, for example, Korean people. I saw that actually they are real, because it was so abstract for me to see like those names. And now I know that it's a world, it's real people, they have emotions. They, of course, it's, I touched the real thing. It was just abstract, because with Instagram, it's just little words that passes through and you don't really realize it's actual people. And now I'm so shocked by that, because I'm so far away. It's so the language is so different. Everything is so different. But there were people knowing me, so it's real. Thank you.
네, 혹시 또 추가 질문 없으실까요? 네, 그러면은 혹시 작가님 마지막으로 한마디 하고 싶은 말씀 있으실까요?
No, thank you for coming. First of all, I would like to thank you, the Hoban Foundation, because they called me, and it's something special to have an exhibition here. I'd like to thank you, my gallery, because they helped, because otherwise it would have been impossible to move 35 paintings from Italy. And I would like to thank the curatorial team. They did a great job with me, a lot of patience, and it was an adventure actually. So I just want to thank everybody here. Thank you. And a special thank you to my wife, which is always supporting me, and with the patience of, she's super patient with me, because I'm crazy. I start to panic. So she's always there for me, trying to put me back on my feet. Thank you, Elisa.